So adding a good hairline detail is a great way to brighten up the underneath pieces and also helps brighten them up when they look at themselves in the mirror, because all of the underneath is going to be a little bit lighter without having to do a full highlight. So sometimes we don't have the time, and half the time they want that lived-in look anyway. So you can get away with so much more by doing basically little work. So as you see here, this client that I had hasn't done the underneath section in a very long time. So we didn't have the full amount of time to completely do a full highlight because she has such coarse hair and she has a lot of it. So this is number one, a great way to add that brightness without having to do that full highlight work. Now she does have permanent color in her hair. So we started with the Blonde Voyage Moroccan Oil Lightener with 20 volume. And as I worked up the hair, after I did the face frame foil, I actually upped my developer to 30. So that way they can all process in and around the same time. And here I am using the Product Club Smooth Foil Roll. These foils are really nice, especially if you are doing a highlight and wanting to get really close to the root. They are not so heavy where they don't slip, but not too thin where they're gonna fall apart on you. So I like using these foils too, especially getting really close to the hairline, like I did on top of her head and around the hairline. She wanted to kind of move and brighten everything up, so that's why I switched to these rolls to ensure that I do get close to the hairline, especially when I move up the head. And then I'm pairing that up with the Product Club brush. This is a really good feathering brush, especially if you want to feather close to that root area. And as I'm just feathering kind of near that root area, I don't really necessarily have to get really close because she's not going to see a lot near her root anyway. But we did color melt her, so you know that was gonna come out as a seamless blend anyway. And I am just making sure I kind of lock my foils underneath, because even though this section here is a bigger section, I just don't want to have any slippage while this is processing, because she does have heavier hair, and sometimes with heavier hair it tends to, you know, it can slip a little bit, especially if it's in the back. I am keeping my foils a little bit longer, so I'm not really folding the foil up onto the hair and creating a big crease. As you can see, I'm kind of feathering just ever so slightly onto the kind of like near the ends, so that way some of that existing lightness can just get a little bit brighter but not completely saturating it. So as you saw on the other side, I am taking a V-like section. I am using a board to make sure that all of the hair is completely saturated, because if you ever did a foil in the back and it starts slipping all over the place because of the client's head shape, you can't really get a flat surface. Using a board really helps to ensure maximum saturation if needed. And then what I'm doing is, for this V section, I am doing 3 foils on either side. Now, as you saw her, she had a very prominent line of old highlights, of a big line of demarcation. So we're not just going to stop at the 3 foils here. We are going to do a little bit of a backcombing to help kind of blend and bring everything a little bit more seamless and more blended, so she doesn't have that really stark line of demarcation. So depending on the amount of foils that you use, sometimes all depends on the client's thickness of hair, coarseness, density, all that comes into play. And I think you just have to kind of get a really good eye and see what they want to see, and that will determine how many foils you are going to place to determine how much blonde you want to see. So now, after I did the 3 foils on each side, now I'm going toward the middle to make sure when that she pulls her hair up, that way there's no big gaps or holes around my hairline. And then for this middle section here, I'm actually only doing 2 foils horizontally. And again, depending on how much depth they want, if they want it really close up to the hairline, will all determine if you want to put your lightener really close to the root area, if you want a back comb. I just did a little slight back comb on this section because when she pulls her hair up, she's already going to see light from those underneath. So we necessarily didn't have to go all the way up the hair, but I'm still am feathering kind of closer to the root. So that way, you know, she has a little bit more longevity with the blonde highlights underneath. So after I finished these 2 foils that were horizontal, I am going to pull out the existing hair of the pieces that were left out. So as you can see, I'm kind of going in the middle of those foils of where the V section and the horizontal sections meet. And then I'm doing a weave because since she wants that more lived in look, I don't want to take a huge solid piece because then it's not going to balance everything out. Remember, when you take foils back to back and you don't leave any hair out in between, you're going to get more of a bold solid section, right? So I still want to keep everything nice and blended that connects from the bottom to the top. So that's why I'm taking a nice weave section. I'm backcombing that to still keep a little bit of that lived in depth in there and doing a little weave, feathering up, and that way when this all is done, it's going to be well blended and still create that lived in depth and lived in feel without being too solid compared to the top. And then we glazed her with a 9-0 and a 10-1 and a 1 in Moroccan oil is blue. And there is the back hairline compared to before. And then next week she will be coming in for her Brazilian blowout to smooth out her coarse texture.